And one of the players, it looks like, even tried to like grab him, like, like basically, dude, what are you doing? And then for some reason, he decided to do it again. This time he was pointing it towards the direction of the rest of the players, but it didn't go over. It didn't seem like it went over too well with the team, and he wound up having to issue a deep apology afterwards after the game. I guess he's been a coach with the team now for 3 years. It's my understanding, it's the first time they ever had, any kind of issue with him in this manner. Darius, what's your take on this? What category do we put this under outside of just being stupid?
I mean, like you said, it's hard to judge the man because you don't know. It could have been maybe like a team camaraderie type of thing or something as far as an inside joke. But with the climate of today, it's something that you shouldn't do. Something that shouldn't have been taking place, even if it was a joke.
Right.
Just right now with the time and with things going on in the world, that's not the right climate, not the right situation.
I don't think so. Yeah, if this was an inside thing, it should have been kept inside because you got cameras all over the place. So I don't know if this was the wisest of inside jokes. Jackie, what do you think?
Yeah, I saw something that said he thought that it would be appropriate instead of doing elbow bumps since we're in COVID right now, that he thought that would be the best thing. But the way that his players approached him, like you said, what are you doing? It seemed like he knew what he was doing and just didn't know he was on camera. Right,
yeah. That's how it appeared. But in 2020, I don't know how you don't think you're on camera. I mean, especially during a professional baseball game. Right. You're on camera till you're not on camera, So I don't know. I haven't heard anything further in terms of any kind of disciplinary action. Like I said, he did issue a pretty deep apology. So, I mean, we might just put it under the category of don't do this no more. But, oftentimes, none of us want to get judged on our worst day. But sometimes, our judgments have consequences. So I hope he uses this as a learning experience, and just doesn't decide to use this kind of display ever again. Speaking of baseball, we're going to keep it local for a minute, and we're going to talk about the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs, how they're doing so far this season. The Cubs, I think, have the best record in the league at 10-3. The White Sox, they started out like 1-5. Now they're like 7-5, I believe, something like that. So, Jackie, what do you think about our local baseball teams? What's going on here?
I'm glad that they're both doing good. Seems like the Cubs are on a roll, and as of late, the White Sox are too. It wasn't looking too good with them starting out 1-5, like you said, but seemed like they getting it together. They finally building some chemistry. So we'll see where we go from here, and if we get to see a whole season.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, we're gonna dive into that in a little bit. Darius, what do you think?
It's good to see them off to a good start, both teams, especially with the White Sox and the hype that they came into the season with. I think the Cubs are playing a little bit out beyond themselves right now. So we'll see how it plays out, especially with this COVID-19 going on and the current events that's actually happening with the Cubs and them being postponed. But like I said, we'll move on to that eventually. But right now, they seem like they're doing pretty good. Let's see if they can keep up the hot starts. It's only 60 games, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, if I had to break both teams down, I'll start with the White Sox. It looks, they got a good mix of veteran players along with young players. It seems like they definitely have some dynamite offense. They can definitely score the ball, but pitching looks like it's still a little in the starting pitching. I think the relief pitching is fine with Colomé and Bummer, but the starting pitching is a little spotty. And honestly, I think the White Sox are about a year away from actually being a real contender. Right now, they can't beat teams like Minnesota. It's just not going to happen. The Cubs, and I know our production leader, as we're blaring this Cubs noise in the background here, they're 10-3. They're looking like the team they should have looked like, seems like, since they won the World Series. Maybe because a lot of them know this might be their last year if they didn't get it together. Definitely looks like they're playing for the new manager, David Ross.
That's their friend.
We'll see what happens. And then our crack production producer, Bradley, just want to see if he's still playing that song when they go on a 4-game losing streak.
It's easy to play for your friend,
But
ain't it?
y'all know, real quick, y'all know it will be just the Cubs' luck. They'll go like 25-5 or something, and then they're going to wind up canceling the season. So we'll see what happens. But honestly, speaking of the Cubs, they were set to play the St. Louis Cardinals this weekend, and you know that's one of the biggest baseball rivalries there is. And it looks like the series is postponed due to, guess what? COVID-19. Darius, give me a little education on this. What exactly happened? This was like some late breaking news.
Yeah, this is actually right before we aired today. We got some breaking news that the fact that one of the Cardinal players tested positive, and I think it's a player outside of the first 12 that tested positive for COVID. So with that being said, I believe they're going to be postponing the series for the rest of the weekend, and they'll be probably moving it to later on in the year if they can even get it to later on in the year. But right now we've seen a lot of positive tests coming from the Cardinals. I believe, like you said, this is the 13th. I believe this is the 13th player that's been tested positive
Something like that
for the Cardinals. It's just something that the league needs to probably take deeper look into. This is the second team as far as the outbreak. I believe they get one more team as far as a big outbreak to probably be the end of the season.
Jackie, what's your take on all this?
It just seemed like it's just nonstop. First the Marlins, and then they have to postpone that. Now the Cardinals. I don't see them like coming up with any solution to continue the season, honestly. Because if you keep postponing it, at what point do you just say, okay, this is it, we just gonna stop it right now? So I don't know what they're gonna do right now.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like they're doing anything different now than they did when the season first started a couple of weeks ago. So obviously, if you're following the same pattern, this is going to continue to happen. So unless they were instituting something that they thought might curtail this or actually stop it, which I don't know what much you could do other than being in a bubble, and even that's no guarantee. To me, you're just delaying the inevitable. I just do not see how you're going to finish a baseball season. Because you got to keep in mind, when one team breaks out in a contagion, that contagion affects the team that they were about to play. Because now that team, even though they may not have any contagion, they can't play because they were scheduled to play you. So you have baseball doing traveling. You have them going home to their families. Darius, I'm going to come back at you one more time. Will baseball finish this season?
You know what, D? I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if there are changes. They're going to be changes as far as their process. And if it doesn't seem like they're going to be changing the process, I know like some of their players are getting tested maybe like 3 to 4 days apart. It doesn't seem like they're playing from the beginning. When we first started this whole thing, it didn't seem like that plan was legit. It don't seem like it's working out now. I believe if they have 1 or 2 more teams, or maybe even one team with a big outbreak, more than maybe 6 or 7 players, well, we'll see it end of the MLB season.
Jackie?
I agree. I honestly, I don't see a way that they can finish the season if people continue to test positive, because all it's going to do is just, like you said, Daryl, keep going in a continuous cycle.
Yeah, I think we're 1 or 2 New York Yankees or Los Angeles Dodgers away from them calling this thing. And to me, or Boston Red Sox, to me, the only reason, my opinion, the only reason the season hasn't already been canceled is because the top teams, you know, I would put the Cubs and the Cardinals in that upper echelon, but they're still not looked upon like the Yankees or the Dodgers or even the Red Sox. Until one of those teams gets it, they're probably going to keep trying to go with this thing because, like I said a couple of shows ago, anytime something doesn't make sense to you, I guarantee you there's money involved. And that's what's going on right now, because to me, this just absolutely makes no sense. I would just call it, you try, I give you, A for effort. It was fun watching, but this isn't, what are we like, 15 games in?
Yeah, about
Something like
14,
that?
Around 14, 15 games.
So we're just a quarter of this shortened season in, and already we've had multiple contagions by different teams. And we're supposed to think that in 3 more quarters this isn't supposed to happen again? It's just unrealistic. So if you're asking me, I would just, hey, Rob Manfred, pull the plug, baby. It's just not going to happen. It's valiant effort, but it's to me, it's a wrap. This is definitely something we'll stay tuned on, that's for sure. Okay, switching gears, we're going to talk a little NBA basketball. It appears, at least as of right now, the NBA looks like they got it right. So far, there haven't been any known outbreaks or anything. I haven't heard of any players that have tested positive. Obviously, the NBA is in a bubble. Jackie, what do you think? What the difference between the NBA and Major League Baseball? Was it just the bubble, or do you think there's other factors involved?
I think it's the bubble, but I also think that they were more well prepared.
Yeah.
Other than the bubble, I've seen so many behind the scenes of how they have people that sanitize their packaging, and they're just taking it seriously. The coaching staff, from the players, the trainers, they just seem to be. They want to finish their season, so they're taking all the precautions necessary to do so.
Right. Darius, what do you think?
To piggyback off what Jackie said, the NBA has done a lot as far as showing what they've done to create the bubble, to be healthy and safe within the bubble. The benches that they've created, even now that they have everybody has their own seat and bench with their own things and belongings there. The glass that they have in between some of the announcers and people who usually work the scoreboards and the referees. They've taken a lot of precaution as far as testing the players every single day. Them using their ability to have that and use their campus at Disney, it seems like they're doing a very good job. The games are really good games. A lot of the teams that are fighting for that A spot, it seems like they're playing for something. We have teams that maybe not even playing for something, or maybe clinch their playoffs, they even playing hard. So I believe that the bubble is panning out in the right way, in the right direction. Keeping those players inside that bubble, I think it's a big thing. Seems like they're doing a good job of keeping them within. We had a little hiccups in the beginning with Lou Williams and a couple other players, but it seems like they're doing the right thing, keeping in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you. I like particularly what Jackie said about. I think the bubbles might be the main factor, but I don't think it's the only factor. I think just the leadership and the way they're going about protecting everyone. It just seems to me that they're light years ahead of baseball. The NBA is in what they're doing versus what baseball is doing, and the bubble obviously is definitely a factor, because we don't have to look any further than the NHL. Because the NHL is also in a bubble. They're at two locations in Canada. Speaking of the NHL, we would be remiss if we did not say the Blackhawks are up 2-1 against the Edmonton Oilers. They can end it tonight. It is the best of 5. They're up 2-1. Who would have thunk it? But once again, when you look at the NHL, I haven't heard about any teams that having any outbreaks. I haven't heard about any individual players tested positive. Once obviously the bubble appears to work when done right. So baseball, not in a bubble, outbreaks all over the place. NBA in a bubble, no outbreaks. NHL in a bubble, no outbreaks. NFL, they're not going to be in a bubble. Guess what's probably going to happen when they start? So I'm going to jump back to the NBA real quick. Jackie, what teams look good to you so far in the NBA? What teams look good? Any teams that have surprised you so far?
For me, Portland is looking really good. I know they're on the outside right now at that number 9 spot, but I really believe that they're going to get that 8th spot, because if I'm not mistaken, Memphis hasn't won the game yet since they've been there. And Portland, they are healthy, and if they had been healthy this whole time, they probably be like a number 4 or 5 seed. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that they will make the playoffs. But other than that, Phoenix is looking really good to me. Even though I don't believe they'll make the playoffs, they're still in their stride, and it's just something to build off for the next season.
Okay. Darius?
teams are looking really good. I mean, you got your teams at the top who basically clinched already for the playoffs, so they're easy taking these 8 games easy. But then you got those teams at the bottom, especially in the West Side, who are playing for that 8th spot, also even playing for the play-in, because we do know the bottom the bottom 2 teams, as far as the 8th and the 9th seed, are 4 games or smaller as far as comparison than they will be doing a play-in. So if we get to see a play-in between Portland and the Suns, like Jackie said, those are 2 teams that are hot right now. I believe both of them are 4-0 right now within the bubble. You have your other teams who are seems like they're just there just to be there. For example, your Brooklyn Nets, they're 7th seed, so they were lucky enough to be there, but they don't seem like they have any steam at all.
Right.
But between those smaller teams in the West, as far as those 8th and 9th seed, they've been playing really well. I'm excited for the playoffs. These next 4 games, they should go fast, so we can get into that.
Yeah. In my case, I don't know if there's been any teams that are surprising me. I think the teams, the good teams are still the good teams. The great teams are still the great teams, and the not so great teams are just that. I tell you a team that's starting to disappoint me, and I don't necessarily mean on the court so much. And it was my team, I was picking them to win it, and that's the Clippers. And my reason for that is, and I listened to Antoine Walker. He was on the show a few days ago, and he was talking about it. And to me, he was forthright, and I couldn't have agreed with him more. Basically, you got a few guys that have opted out for personal reasons. Other guys that are saying, I have family issues, what have you. And I'm not, downplaying any issues they may be having, personally or what have you. But I do know this. When you are trying to win a championship, when you're going for a chip, you got to be all in. Everybody. You can't have no outside distractions. You can't have no, I'm having this issue at home, or I'm having this issue, personally or whatever. You're either all in, or you probably going to wind up being on the outside looking in. And I'm just curious, Darius, I want to bounce back to you. Is it just me, or do you think that, the Clippers, this isn't the time to be, kind of, all right, we're going to take it easy right now till the playoffs actually start. What do you think about that?
No, D, I totally agree. It's funny you say, because I was having this conversation the other day with a couple of gentlemen. I don't believe that if your team was in that right mindset, that we're going to win a championship, you wouldn't have a player leave and then once as well have that player show up within a club. So, and when I mean club, we know what type of club that was.
Right.
It just didn't seem smart, especially at the beginning of the bubble. You don't know what the precautions that you're going to do or have with being within this bubble. Is just a trip that you don't take.
Right. I'm
going to be honest, anybody on the Lakers was doing that, they'd probably be cut.
Right.
It's just something that some players that withhold on the team, as far as your leaders would not have that. And as one of your leaders being that person to actually do that, it shows you what the focus is in that team. Like I said, if this was another team as far as a high contender like that, maybe from the Bucks or from the Lakers, you probably would see that person probably being penalized or being ostracized as well. But I don't know. I'll bounce this off of Jackie. I'm not for sure where the Clippers are as far as their mindset.
Right. Jackie?
I think them as a team and as an organization, they have to get out of the mindset of, since they've been losing for so long as an organization, they have to get into, like you said, so many of the other teams like the Lakers, they have a championship mindset, and the Clippers need to do the same. It seems to me the only two that came prepared were Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They're the only two that have been consistently showing up day in and day out. Everybody else, they need to have a team meeting or something just to make sure that they're on the right page, especially if they want to win the championship.
Couldn't agree more. It seems like Paul and Kawhi are the only two that really came prepared, and it just seems like they're as a team, their attitude is just, especially you ain't won nothing.
Yeah.
I have seen it. Okay, you was Golden State or somebody. We won 3 out of the last 5 or whatever. You ain't won nothing. So I agree with you, Jackie. I think it might be team meeting time or something, because If they carry this attitude into the playoffs, I don't see them lasting much longer.
Yeah, that team focus is just not there.
Yeah, they're too good to be, you know, to be this just disorganized. Real quick, somebody's going to win assuming that the NBA concludes, somebody's going to win the championship. Does this championship count? Jackie, what you think?
I think it counts, but it's just not the same. Just because, when you take so much time off, you can't expect to have the same chemistry unless you've been doing things together throughout this time period that they've been off. But it definitely counts. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just something different.
Right. Darius?
I think it's the same thing as long as what Jackie said. So it counts. Yeah, it
right.
definitely counts. But it's like, all right, it counts for the bubble championships. So if we ever have a bubble again, throughout, we'll know who the first bubble champions were.
Bubble champion.
Or I would say shortened season champions were. Or if we ever had a comparison to say who won championships in a shortened season or a different season or a season that was thrown off, then we have that champion. But like Jackie says, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Obviously, assuming they finish, somebody's got to win it. And if I'm one of the teams, I'll stand in line to get my half a championship or whatever you want to call it, an asterisk trophy, whatever. But yeah, it's not going to have the same meaning or feeling as seasons past. Obviously, because it was just. I mean, it's nobody's fault, but it is what it is. So no matter who wins a championship, whatever sport, it's going to be looked at a little different than it would have been under normal circumstance. That's just the way it is. But don't get me wrong, if they still making rings, I still want mine.
I think it plays a difference too as far as who actually wins it. If you have people who, like, for example, Giannis's first championship is like, it's your first championship, but it's not your first championship.
Yeah, I get
if
you.
LeBron
I hear where
wins
you're
it,
going.
it's like, all right, LeBron, you won another championship. Good job. It shows you one of the better players. Kawhi, I think same thing. We showed that Kawhi is one of the better players if they actually win a championship. But it's like, Clippers, okay, you guys didn't win your real first NBA championship.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. All right, we're going to switch gears, go to football real quick. 66 NFL players so far have opted out of the season due to COVID-19 concerns. Jackie, what's your take on that?
I think it's going to be some more.
Yeah, I think the number's going to grow.
It's just like the same thing we've been saying with baseball, how before their season started, there was no plan, there was no preparation. It seems like the NFL is taking that direction too. Haven't heard anything about any precautions that they're taking, so I think some more players are going to be opting out.
Darius, what you think? I totally agree.
I think the NFL's like, for some reason, like they're acting off this, like COVID is supposed to be gone when football starts.
Right.
It's not going to be around anymore, or it's the fall time now, so COVID's calmed down. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I know we've having within the circles between me and some of my comrades, I know we have inner circles of thinking that COVID is probably going to be rising within the winter months or within the fall months. So for football to be a little bit naive to that, it seems like they're being naive to that, especially like with the plans as far as them going into OTAs or them going into training camp. You see some teams that have sanitizers when they come out, as far as them walking through the sanitizers. I believe those are the Denver Broncos. And then you have teams like Tampa Bay Buccaneers who necessarily don't have that. So they're on a scale, I think, the same way as baseball. They're letting the teams handle it within the teams and not being on the same page or same accord, like basketball or like the NHL may be doing.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't seem like that's the best route. So we'll see where it goes as far as football, but I don't think it's going. I mean, this is a lot of contact sport, flesh on flesh sport.
Right.
We'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that the NHL and the NBA are playing with little to no issue, and Major League Baseball is having all kind of issues, and it appears that the NFL is probably going to go through the same thing. So we'll keep our eyes tuned on that. Jackie, I'll ask you real quick before I bounce it. Should the NFL, if they start the season, should they continue this, or should they shut it down now?
I think they should shut it down, honestly. I don't see anything that gives any light to them being able to finish a season. Same with the baseball.
Right.
So I just think that before it even starts, just prepare yourselves for next year. So many people opting out and so many more are going to continue. I think they should just prepare for next year. And then maybe the Washington Redskins, well, the Washington football team will have a name by then. So.
Right, they have a name. Darius?
Same thing. I honestly believe right now it should be at a standstill just because we don't know as far as the state of America and where we are with COVID-19. It is promising to see other countries coming out of it, especially New Zealand, that they uplifted all restrictions. So that is a positive to see that we will have a better day. But right now, as far as football, push it back. I mean, as you see within CPS here in Chicago, we won't have high school football until next spring.
Right.
Why not push it back? Everything else is being pushed back. You should do the same.
Yeah, I can see a reschedule, if you're not going to just shut it down. But it looks like they're going to go, full steam ahead. So we'll see. All right, real quick. Odell Beckham Jr., he made some comments about owners don't see the players as human beings. This is news. How? Jack, help me.
I think he was probably referencing, you know how the NBA, the owners, they have commercials and all things saying like Black Lives Matter, but the NFL, they've never made a statement saying anything. All they did was donate some money. So maybe he's referring to that because it's been known that owners, they see athletes as a product.
Property.
That's what you just come to do your job. You there to win games. So it's not really anything new to me.
Darius?
Well, yeah, I think he's one of those cases where you think, how you had those superstars out there and they feel like they have to say something so they can be established or so people can know that they said something. I think it's something around there with Odell Beckham in this because how the way he put it, yes, they're allowing you to play football, but they're giving you the choice. And they're giving you the choice to play. He has the ultimate choice not to play football if he does not want to play football.
So I look at it.
Saying something about the owners and how the owners see you, I think that players have already known that. I think that it's something that, once again, I think it's just something he brought into light to try to make question of something. But hey, he took the wrong tune, took the wrong aspect. You don't have to play football. They're telling you don't have to play football. You're gonna not get paid your money. So I mean, that decision is more of on a player decision. As far as them continue to play.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Every human being should be treated as such a human being. But when you're talking about particularly sports and business, I go back to the old North Dallas 40. It's an old movie from years ago. But one of the characters in the movie said to one of the owners, he says, "It's amazing that when I call it a sport, you call it a business. When I call it a business, you call it a sport. It is what it is. Look." Nobody's making you play football, so, the choice is yours. I know a lot of people who would like to make $15, $20 million a year. So,
I don't think they're gonna have any problems finding players or anything like that.
I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't know. All right, real quick, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson done bought what's left for the XFL. What did he get him for, like $12? How much? What he spend?
$15 million. I think it was.
What he spend, Darius?
What was 15 million?
About $15 million.
That ain't nothing to him, but I mean.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's lunch money for the Rock, but yeah. So now, in fairness, the XFL was doing fairly decent before the COVID really hit. But do you all think, real quick? Do you all think if and whenever this is over, this is going to come back and prosper? Jackie?
I think that they can make it succeed. It's all going to be in their approach, though. I think with The Rock being the owner, him and I think he has partners as well. If they come together and find a way to bring it back to life, I think it could succeed. But if not, it's going to be a bad investment on his part. But yeah. I think it can do well, though.
Darius?
When it comes to The Rock, I think Rock and the XFL, I think that the right person took it as far as him being the owner now as well as a face. him being the face owner for the XFL shows that, or giving more opportunity to players that come from the same spotlight that he came from. He was a football player, a person that wanted to play football and it didn't pan out. So I think he just want to make an opportunity and make a lane for those guys who maybe cannot make the NFL or want to make a lane for themselves. I think it's in the right hands. We'll see what he does with it once, we get past all the COVID, but I think it's in the right hands. I think they'll be moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. I've always been a Rock fan. Met him once, real cool dude. I wish him nothing but the best. I think the best way for them to have success is to wait until this thing is completely either over or at least contained to the point where you can actually, salvage a season and you don't, wind up doing what baseball is going through and what the NFL is probably gonna go through. So I wish, hey Rock, we with you. Wish you the best. Just you done bought the league. Just sit and chill right now, and we'll just wait and see what happens. All right, Kroc Sports Nation, as always, want to thank you all again for another, sharing your time with us, sharing this half hour with us like you did. We are also, before we leave, we're going to leave with the poll question for next week. It should be obvious what it is. Do you think sports, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, do you think these summer, fall sports are going to be able to finish their season? That's the poll questions. We hopefully want to get your results next week. As always, I want to thank my hosts, Jackie Foster, Darius Jackson, our crack production crew for putting this all together. I want to thank Salvation Army Ranch on Kroc Center for allowing us this vehicle, this avenue. We want to thank our majors, Major John and Johanna Pook. Most of all, I want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy lives to share this half an hour with us. So please come back again, same bat time, same bat channel next week. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about. All right, y'all be cool. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Be smart. Peace.